They call it the angel's frequency. 98.4 FM. It is the only thing that cuts through the static of a dead world. For 3 years, we have listened to the silence. The screaming stopped a long time ago. The gunfire faded into memory. Now, there is only the wind howling through the hollowed-out ribcages of skyscrapers. And the shuffling of things that should be dead but refuse to lie down. And then, 3 days ago, the radio cracked. I remember the sound exactly. It wasn't the harsh, white noise that usually fills the bunker. It was a rhythmic thrum, like a heartbeat pushing through miles of interference. Then the voice. Smooth. Calm. Impossible. It said, "Sanctuary is real. We have food. We have power. We have walls that hold. If you can hear this, head north to the transmission tower. You are not alone." I sat there, staring at the rusted speaker mesh of the old ham radio. Watching the dust motes dance in the sickly yellow light of my last battery-powered lantern. The voice loop is perfect. Too perfect. There is no tremor of fear, no background hiss of the wasteland wind. Just that promising, hypnotic cadence. Come home. Come home. It plays every hour on the hour. And it is the most terrifying thing I have heard since the sky turned gray. Because in this new world, nothing is clean. Nothing is safe. And hope? Hope is just the bait they use to drag you out of your hole. My name is Elias, and I am going to leave the bunker. Not because I believe the voice, but because I have eaten the last of the dried corn, and the water filters are clogged with a black sludge that smells like copper and old blood. To stay is to die slowly in the dark. To leave is to die quickly in the light. I'm choosing the light. Chapter 1. The Grey Wastes. The airlock wheel is cold against my palm. It resists, the metal groaning in protest as I force the locking mechanism to disengage. It screams, a high-pitched shriek of metal on metal that echoes in the cramped concrete box I've called home for 700 days. I freeze, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I wait. I listen. But the heavy steel door dampens the world outside. I push. The seal breaks with a hiss of pressurized air, the smell of the basement, mold, sweat, and despair, rushing out to meet the atmosphere of the surface. And the smell that comes back in? It's the smell of ash. It's the scent of a forest fire that burned out years ago but left the earth scarred and smoking. I step out. The brightness is blinding. Even through my goggles, the sun is a pale, washed-out disk behind a permanent veil of stratospheric dust. The world is colorless. They don't tell you that about the apocalypse. In the movies, it's all fiery explosions and high-contrast chases. In reality, it's gray. The grass is gray and brittle, snapping under my boots like dry bones. The trees are stripped bare, their branches clawing at the sky like the fingers of drowning men. The asphalt of the old highway is cracked, veins of dead weeds running through the fissures. I adjust the strap of my backpack. It's light. Too light. A half-empty water bottle, a rusted hunting knife, a map that depicts a world that no longer exists, and the radio. The radio is clipped to my shoulder, the volume turned low, just a whisper against my ear. Sanctuary is real. The voice lies. I start walking. The silence of the suburbs is heavy. It has a physical weight, pressing down on my shoulders. Houses stand in varying states of decay, their windows shattered, looking like hollow eye sockets watching me pass. A child's tricycle lies overturned in a driveway, the red paint flaking away to reveal the rust beneath. It's a tombstone for a childhood cut short. I keep to the shadows, moving with the practiced crouch of a scavenger. Every snap of a twig sounds like a gunshot. Every rustle of the wind sounds like a footstep. I am looking for the signal tower. I can see it in the distance, a metal needle piercing the haze miles away. It blinks with a red light at the very top. A beacon. A lure. About a mile out from my bunker, I find the first sign that I am not the first to answer the call. It's a car, a sedan, abandoned in the middle of the road with its doors wide open. But it's not just abandoned. It's been tossed. Luggage is scattered across the pavement, ripped open, clothes shredding in the wind. I approach slowly, knife drawn. The leather of the handle is slick with the sweat of my palm. I peer inside the vehicle. The keys are still in the ignition. And there, on the dashboard, is a flyer. It looks fresh. Printed on crisp, white paper that hasn't yellowed yet. It has a simple symbol, a radio tower with a sun rising behind it. Underneath, handwritten in red ink, are the words, "Follow the noise." My stomach churns. Who printed this? Who left it here? As I lean in closer, I see something on the passenger seat. It's a portable radio, smashed to pieces. The plastic is shattered, the internal wires ripped out as if someone tried to silence it in a panic. And then I see the blood. It's not old, brown flaking stains. It's dark, tacky, and relatively recent. Maybe 2 days old. It streaks across the upholstery and trails out the open door, disappearing into the tall, gray grass of the roadside ditch. I look at the trail. It doesn't look like someone walked away. It looks like someone was dragged. The drag marks are wide, messy. The grass is matted down. I swallow the lump in my throat and look toward the tower again. The red light blinks. You are not alone, the voice in my ear whispers. No. I'm definitely not alone. The signal isn't a rescue beacon. It's a dinner bell. And I just walked right into the kitchen. Chapter 2: The Friction of Silence. I stand at the edge of the asphalt, the toes of my boots hovering over the precipice where the road crumbles into the roadside ditch. The dragged marks are staring at me. They are 2 parallel furrows carved into the gray earth, interrupted only by the jagged snag of roots and buried stones. I can see where the heels of the victim dug in. I can see the frantic geometry of resistance, the way the dirt is piled up in small, desperate berms against the direction of the pull. It was a struggle. It was a fight. And it was a fight that ended in silence. I forced my eyes to follow the trail down into the tall grass. The vegetation here is waist-high, a monochrome sea of brittle stalks that hiss when the wind disturbs them. They don't sway like living things, they rattle like dry quills. The blood on the pavement behind me is still drying, the scent of copper and iron sharp enough to cut through the pervasive smell of ash. It triggers a primal alarm in the base of my brain, a lizard brain response that screams at me to run. To bury myself back in the concrete womb of my bunker. But I can't go back. The airlock is sealed. The food is gone. The water filters are clogged with the sludge of a dying world. There is only forward. There is only the tower. I take a breath, tasting the metallic tang of the air, and step off the road. The transition from the hard, cracked pavement to the soft, yielding earth of the ditch feels momentous. A crossing of a threshold from which there is no return. I descend. The grass closes over my head, swallowing me whole. Instantly, the world shrinks. I am no longer in the suburbs. I am in a tunnel of dead vegetation. The sky is a sliver of pale wash above me. I move slowly, placing my feet with the deliberation of a bomb disposal technician. Heel, roll to toe, shift weight. Repeat. I learned this walk in the first year, watching a starving coyote stalk a rat in a burned-out playground. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is a discipline. It is a muscle you have to flex constantly. My backpack shifts against my spine, the canvas scraping against my jacket. Even that small friction sounds like a shout in this cathedral of quiet. The drag marks continue. They are easier to follow here, a highway of crushed stalks and matted dirt. I see things dropped in the panic. A single shoe, a sneaker with the laces still tied tight. A plastic lighter blue, half buried in the mud. A crushed pair of glasses, one lens missing, the other spiderwebbed with cracks. These are the crumbs of a life being erased. I try not to look at them as artifacts of a person. They are just data points. They are just evidence of the threat. My hand grips the handle of the hunting knife so hard my knuckles ache, the leather biting into my skin. I keep the blade low, close to my hip, ready to strike upward. The radio on my shoulder crackles. It's a burst of static, sudden and violent, like a tear in the fabric of reality. I almost jump out of my skin, my heart slamming against my ribs. I fumble for the volume knob, my fingers shaking. Water is plentiful. The voice says. It's a woman's voice now. Soft. Maternal. It sounds like a teacher reading a bedtime story. The gates are open. We are waiting for you. The signal is safety. The signal is home. I twist the knob until the voice is barely a vibration against my collarbone. Lies. Beautiful, desperate lies. If water is plentiful, why is the creek bed I'm stepping over bone dry? Why is the earth cracked into a mosaic of thirst? The cognitive dissonance makes my head swim. I climb out of the ditch and into the treeline that borders the old residential zone. The forest is a skeleton. The bark has peeled away from the trunks of the oaks and maples, leaving the wood beneath bleached and smooth, like polished driftwood. There are no leaves to block the view, yet the density of the branches creates a chaotic, tangled net that confuses the eye. Depth perception fails here. Shadows stretch and merge, creating phantom shapes that seem to move in my periphery. I stop every 10 paces. Stop. Listen. Scan. The silence here is different than the bunker. The bunker was a dead silence, a void. This silence is heavy. It's pregnant. It feels like the silence of a held breath. The birds are gone. The insects are gone. There is only the wind moving through the hollow branches, creating a sound like 1,000 flutes being played by a ghost. It's a mournful, hollow whistle that grates on the nerves. I check my compass, though I don't really need it. The tower is a physical anchor, a black spike against the gray horizon. But the ritual of checking the compass grounds me. North is still north. Physics still applies, even if biology has gone to hell. My thirst is starting to set in. It's a dull ache in the back of my throat, a sticky dryness that makes it hard to swallow. I reach for the water bottle in the side pocket of my pack, unscrewing the cap with slow, deliberate movements. I take a sip. Just a sip. I hold the tepid liquid in my mouth, letting it coat my tongue, savoring the moisture before I let it slide down my gullet. It tastes of plastic and iodine. It's the best thing I've ever tasted. I check the level. Less than half a liter left. The voice on the radio promised water. Crystal clear springs, it said yesterday. I look at the ground, at the gray dust that puffs up around my boots with every step. If there are springs here, they are weeping dust, not water. I pass a house that has collapsed in on itself. The roof has caved in, dragging the second floor down into the first. It looks like a mouth that has bitten down on something too hard. Through a shattered window frame, I see a living room frozen in time. A sofa, untouched but covered in a thick layer of gray silt. A television set, the screen blank and blind. A coffee table with a magazine still resting on it. I can't read the title from here, but the colors on the cover are faded to pastel ghosts. I feel a pang of profound sadness, a hollow ache that has nothing to do with thirst. This was someone's sanctuary. This was someone's safe zone. And now it's just a pile of kindling waiting for a spark. I move deeper into the woods, following the general direction of the drag marks, though they have become fainter here. Lost in the chaotic debris of the forest floor. The ground is uneven, hidden roots waiting to snap an ankle. I have to look down to place my feet, then look up to scan for threats. Down. Up. Down. Up. It's a hypnotic rhythm that dulls the senses. I have to fight the urge to zone out. Complacency is death. Then I hear it. It's not the radio. It's not the wind. It's a sound that doesn't belong. A snap. Sharp. Distinct. The sound of wood breaking under weight. It came from my left, maybe 50 yards out, behind a thicket of brambles. I freeze. I don't crouch immediately. Movement attracts the eye. I become a statue. I stop breathing. I open my mouth slightly to equalize the pressure in my ears, straining to hear over the thumping of my own pulse. Silence returns. But it's a different silence now. It's the silence of a predator that knows it has been heard. I slowly, agonizingly slowly, lower myself into a crouch, pressing my back against the rough, cold trunk of a dead oak. I unclasp the safety strap on my knife sheath again, though the blade is already in my hand. I wait. Minutes pass. My thighs begin to burn from the exertion of the crouch. A bead of sweat rolls down my forehead, stinging my eye, but I don't wipe it away. Another sound. Closer this time. A rustle. The friction of dry grass against something textured, something coarse. It's moving parallel to me. It's not coming directly at me, it's flanking. Panic flares hot and bright in my chest. This isn't a mindless animal. This is tactical. I look at the radio on my shoulder. The red LED light is blinking. Blink. 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 It feels like a beacon in the gloom, a lighthouse guiding the monster straight to me. I want to smash it. I want to rip the batteries out and throw it into the brush. But I can't. The voice is the only thing connecting me to a possibility of a future. I cup my hand over the light, stifling the glow. I need to move. If I stay here, pinned against this tree, I'm cornered. I need to get to higher ground or find a structure with walls. I look ahead. Through the trees, I see the vague outline of a chain-link fence, topped with razor wire. An industrial perimeter? A utility station? It doesn't matter. It's a barrier. If I can get over it, or through it, I can funnel whatever is out there into a choke point. I make my move. I stay low, scuttling like a crab, sacrificing silence for speed. I burst from the cover of the oak and sprint toward the fence. The leaves crunch loudly under my boots, a cacophony of noise that makes me wince. Behind me, the rustling explodes into a crash. Something big is moving. Something heavy is tearing through the brush, abandoning stealth for pursuit. I don't look back. You never look back. I hit the fence hard, the chain link rattling against my chest. It's 10 feet high, rusted, formidable. But there's a gap at the bottom, where the earth has washed away. A crawl space. I throw my backpack through first. Then I dive, scrambling on my belly, the dirt scraping my chin, the sharp bottom edge of the fence catching on my jacket. I kick my legs, driving myself forward. I hear a huff of breath behind me. Wet. Guttural. Not human. I pull my legs through just as something slams into the fence from the other side. The metal screams, the chain link bowing inward under a massive impact. I roll onto my back, knife raised, gasping for air. Through the diamond mesh of the fence, I see a shape. It is indistinct in the gloom, a mass of gray and brown that blends perfectly with the dead forest. But I see eyes. Not glowing, not supernatural. Just eyes. Pale, milky, dilated pupils that seem to take in everything and nothing at once. It sniffs the air, a long, ragged inhalation. Then, slowly it backs away, fading into the gray tapestry of the woods. It isn't leaving. It's just waiting. It knows where I'm going. I scramble to my feet, grabbing my pack. The radio buzzes against my ear, the volume knob having been jostled in the scramble. Dinner is served. The voice whispers. I stare at the woods. The hunt has begun. The whisper dies, swallowed by the static, but the words hang in the air like smoke. Dinner is served. It wasn't a pre-recorded loop. It wasn't a fragmented broadcast caught on a skip from some distant, dying station. It was reactive. It was timed. My hand trembles as it hovers over the volume knob, the black plastic slick with my own sweat. I don't turn it off. I can't. The fear that binds me to this device is stronger than the terror of what comes out of it. If I turn it off, I am truly alone in this gray hellscape. If I keep it on, I am hunted. It is a paradox that churns in my gut, mixing with the adrenaline nausea to create a sour, burning bile in the back of my throat. I turn my back to the fence. The metal mesh is still vibrating faintly, a low-frequency hum that travels through the soles of my boots. A reminder of the force that just collided with the other side. That creature. It didn't leave because it was blocked. It left because it has time. It has the patience of geology. It knows the terrain, and I am just a transient blight moving across its territory. I look out at where I've landed. The transition is jarring. The dense, bramble-choked forest has ended abruptly, replaced by the skeletal remains of industry. I am standing on the edge of a cracked concrete apron, the slabs upheaved by roots and time, creating a treacherous, uneven topography of gray stone and brown earth. This was a substation. Or a transfer yard. It's hard to tell now. Great hulks of rusted iron rise from the ground like the ribcages of prehistoric beasts. Transformers, stripped of their copper entrails, sit silently, leaking black oil that has stained the ground in Rorschach patterns. The air here tastes different. In the woods, it was the smell of rot and wet leaves. Here, it tastes of oxidized metal, pulverized concrete, and old, stagnant water. It is a dead place. Not the dormancy of winter, but the finality of a grave. I check my body. The slide under the fence has taken its toll. My jacket is torn at the shoulder, the rip exposing the white batting underneath, which looks startlingly clean against the grime of the rest of my gear. I lift my shirt. A long, red abrasion runs across my ribs where the bottom link of the fence raked me. It's weeping blood, just enough to make my shirt stick to my skin. I hiss through my teeth as I peel the fabric away. Infection is a slow killer, but a killer nonetheless. I dig into my pack, my fingers fumbling with the zipper. The noise of the zipper, zzzzzt, sounds impossibly loud, like a saw cutting through bone. I freeze, eyes darting to the tree line beyond the fence. Nothing moves. Just the swaying of dead branches in the wind. I retrieve a small bottle of iodine and a rag. The sting is sharp, immediate, and grounding. It focuses the mind. Pain is proof of life. I cap the bottle and shoulder the pack. The weight feels heavier now, or perhaps I am just weaker. I need shelter. The sky above is darkening, the eternal gray ceiling thickening into the bruised purple of approaching night. To stay in the open is suicide. The creature is flanking. I know this in my marrow. It will find a way around the fence, or over it, or through a breach I haven't seen. I scan the industrial ruins. 50 yards ahead, past a maze of toppled pylons, stands a brick structure. It's small, squat, flat-roofed. A control building, maybe. It has walls. It has a doorway. It is a fortress compared to the exposure of the concrete pad. I begin to move. I don't run. Running triggers the chase instinct in predators, and it masks the sounds of the environment. I walk with the rolling gait I learned 3 days ago, heel to toe. rolling the weight to the outside edge of the foot to minimize the crunch of gravel. Every step is a calculation. I watch the ground for loose stones, for puddles, for debris that might shift. My eyes never stop scanning. Left quadrant. Center. Right quadrant. Check 6. Repeat. The rhythm is exhausting. My optic nerves ache from the strain of trying to resolve shapes in the failing light. Every shadow looks like a crouching beast. Every rusted pipe looks like a limb. I reach the maze of pylons. These massive steel towers have collapsed, creating a chaotic geometry of triangles and jagged edges. I have to climb over a girder as thick as a man's torso. The metal is cold, sucking the heat right out of my palms. As I vault over, my boot scrapes against a patch of flaking rust. The sound is a dry rasp, like sandpaper on bone. I pause, counting to 10, listening. The wind whistles through the hollow cavities of the pylons, a mournful, flute-like sound. Underneath that I hear, dripping. Somewhere nearby, water is falling onto metal. Plink. 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 It's rhythmic, hypnotic. I force myself to ignore it. Auditory hallucinations are the first sign of sleep deprivation, and I haven't slept more than 2 hours in the last 48. The brick building is closer now. I can see the details. The red bricks are blackened with soot, the mortar crumbling away like dry cake. The door is gone, leaving a gaping rectangular mouth of darkness. The windows are shattered, jagged teeth of glass remaining in the frames. I approach the doorway from the side, pressing my back against the exterior wall. I don't just walk in. That's how you die. I pull the knife closer to my chest, the blade pointing outward. I take a breath, hold it, and listen. The interior silence is heavy, pressurized. It doesn't feel empty. It feels waiting. I count down. 3, 2, 1. I pivot around the frame, flashlight clicking on for a fraction of a second, just a strobe. A flashbulb burst of light to paint the room in my mind, then off again. In the afterimage burned into my retina, I saw a room. Concrete floor covered in debris. A metal desk overturned. A row of lockers, rusted shut. No creatures. No movement. I step inside. The air here is stagnant, thick with the smell of mouse droppings and ancient paper. I move to the corner of the room, the farthest point from the door, putting solid walls at my back. This is my kingdom for the night. A 10 by 10 box of rotting brick. I slide down the wall until I am sitting on the floor, my legs extended, the knife resting on my knee. I look at the radio again. The red LED is the only color in the world. It blinks with a steady, robotic indifference. I lift it to my ear, turning the volume down to the barest whisper. The static is different here. Outside, it was a white noise wash. Inside these walls, it has a texture. There's a pattern in the interference. A rhythm. Thump hiss. Thump hiss. Like a heartbeat. I pull the map from my pocket. It's a crumpled, soft piece of paper, worn at the creases until it's almost translucent. The safe zone is marked with a heavy red circle in the center. I am supposedly 3 miles away. 3 miles. In the old world, that was a 45-minute walk. Here, it's an odyssey. I traced the line of the fence on the map. It's not marked. This substation isn't marked. The map is a lie. Or maybe it's a trap. Why would they broadcast a signal? Why would they invite people in? Resources are scarce. Every mouth is a liability. Unless the people arriving aren't the guests. We are the resources. Dinner is served. The thought chills me deeper than the cold concrete floor. I need to barricade the door. I can't sleep with that open mouth staring at me. I get up, my joints protesting, and move toward the overturned metal desk. It's heavy, built in an era when things were made to last. I grab the edge and heave. It scrapes across the floor with a shriek of metal on stone that sets my teeth on edge. I freeze, waiting for a reaction from the outside. Nothing. I push it again, inch by inch, until it blocks the lower half of the doorway. It won't stop a determined attacker, but it will make noise. It will buy me a second. And a second is the difference between waking up and never waking up again. I return to my corner. I take a sip of water, swirling it in my mouth to wet my parched tongue before swallowing. It tastes of plastic and iodine. I check the radio one last time before the true dark sets in. The signal meter needle is twitching. It jumps to full strength, then drops to 0, then full again. It's not a transmission variance. The source is moving. The source of the signal is moving. My blood runs cold. The safe zone isn't a place. It's a thing. And it's out there, patrolling the perimeter, waiting for the moths to fly into the flame. I clutch the knife tighter, my knuckles turning white. The night has officially begun, and I am sitting in a trap, listening to the heartbeat of the thing that wants to devour me. The needle drops. Then it spikes. Then it drops again. It's an erratic, convulsing dance that defies the logic of a stationary broadcast tower. If the safe zone were a fortress, a bunker buried deep beneath the earth, the signal strength would remain a constant. A fixed star in the electromagnetic sky. But this is hunting behavior. The realization settles into the marrow of my bones, heavier than the fatigue, sharper than the hunger gnawing at my stomach lining. I am not walking toward a lighthouse. I am walking toward a lanternfish in the abyssal deep. I turn the volume knob until it clicks into the off position. The silence that rushes back into the room is immediate and oppressive, a physical weight pressing against my eardrums. Without the rhythmic static, the small sounds of the substation amplify into terrifying crescendos. The settling of the building's foundation sounds like a footstep. The wind whistling through the shattered teeth of the windows sounds like a wheezing breath. I pull my knees tighter to my chest, curling into the fetal ball that is the universal posture of the preyed upon. The cold of the concrete floor is insidious. It seeps through the denim of my jeans, through the thin layers of skin and muscle, seeking the heat of my core. It feels intentional, as if the building itself is trying to drain the battery of my life. I stare at the blockade I've created. The metal desk is a dark silhouette against the slightly lighter gray of the doorway. It looks pathetic now. A rusted slab of steel that wouldn't stop a determined child, let alone whatever monstrosity generates a signal that can mimic a radio broadcast. I imagine the thing out there. Does it have wheels? Tracks? Legs? Or is it something amorphous, a cloud of nanomachines or a biological horror stitched together from the refuse of the old world? The imagination is a traitor in the dark. It fills the void with teeth and eyes. Time loses its structure. Minutes stretch into hours. My eyelids are leaden curtains that I have to fight to keep open. Every time they droop, the hallucinations flare. The plink returns. Plink. Plink. A drop of water falling into a metal bucket. Rhythmic. Maddening. I shake my head violently, the motion making me dizzy, trying to rattle the sound loose from my skull. There is no water here. The air is dry as bone dust. It is my brain misfiring, neurons sparking across the gap of exhaustion. I need to focus on something real. I slide my hand along the floor, feeling the grit. Dust, pebbles, shattered glass. My fingers brush against something fibrous. Paper. I pick it up, bringing it close to my face, risking a quick shield of my hand to block the glow of the radio's backlight, which I flick on for a microsecond. It's a candy wrapper. Foil. Faded colors. A relic of a time when sugar was cheap and safety was assumed. I crush it in my palm. The crinkle of the foil sounds like a gunshot in the quiet. I freeze, heart hammering against my ribs, waiting for the retaliation. Nothing happens. Just the wind. Just the dark. I shift my weight, my joints popping. The knife is slippery in my hand. Sweat. Cold sweat. I wipe my palm on my pants and regrip the handle. The leather wrap of the hilt is worn smooth by years of anxiety. I wonder how many others have sat in this exact corner, gripping a weapon, waiting for a dawn that feels like it will never come. Did they figure out the signal was moving? Or did they run out into the night, arms waving, radios held high, sprinting toward their salvation only to be consumed? Then I feel it. Not a sound, but a vibration. It travels through the floor, buzzing against my heels. A low-frequency hum, almost below the threshold of hearing. Thrum. Thrum. It's distinct from the wind. It's mechanical. Powerful. The dust on the floor next to my boot begins to dance, tiny particles jittering in sympathy with the vibration. It's close. I stop breathing. I press my hand over my mouth and nose to stifle the sound of my own respiration. The hum grows louder, ascending the scale from a vibration to an audible drone. It sounds like a massive turbine spinning in deep water. The light outside the doorway changes. It's faint, barely perceptible, but the shadows in the room shift. A pale, sickly blue light is sweeping across the exterior of the building. It's not the warm yellow of a searchlight or the stark white of a tactical beam. It's the color of ionizing radiation, the color of an electric arc. The light sweeps past the window frame. For a second, the jagged glass shards catch the glow, flaring like diamonds, casting fractured, spinning shadows across the far wall. The shadows look like grasping fingers. The hum is deafening now, rattling the metal lockers on the other side of the room. One of the locker doors vibrates open with a screech of rusted hinges that makes my entire body seize up. I squeeze my eyes shut, expecting the end. Expecting the beam to cut into the room, to find me, to burn me out of existence. But the light keeps moving. The hum crescendos, a peak of vibrating pressure that makes my teeth ache, and then, slowly, begins to fade. It passes the building. It keeps going. It's patrolling the road. I let out the breath I've been holding in a shuddering gasp. My lungs burn. The air in the room feels thinner, as if the passing entity sucked the oxygen out of the atmosphere in its wake. I check the radio. I didn't turn it on, but the needle is buried in the red. Even off, the coil inside is reacting to the sheer magnetic magnitude of whatever just passed. The needle trembles, pinned against the plastic stopper, trying to go further, trying to point at the master. This isn't a rescue operation. It's a harvest. They aren't broadcasting a location, they are broadcasting a lure. And like deep-sea fish attracted to the glow, we come out of the woodwork, clutching our receivers, walking straight into the mouth of the trawler. The realization reshapes my entire strategy. The map is useless. The destination is death. But if the source is moving, that means the safe zone isn't a fortress. It's a herd. Or a convoy. Or a single, massive, mobile fortress that consumes everything in its path. I look at the radio in my lap. It's not just a receiver. In a world of silence, a receiver is a connection, but it might also be a reflector. Does the signal bounce back? Do they know I'm here because my device resonated with their broadcast? Paranoid thoughts swarm like flies. I want to smash the plastic box against the wall. Shatter the circuits. Sever the link. But I can't. It's my only eye in the invisible spectrum. It's the only way to know when it is coming back. I carefully wrap the radio in a spare piece of cloth from my pack, a dirty flannel shirt, hoping to muffle any electronic noise, any stray light. I shove it deep into the bag. The knife remains in my hand. The adrenaline dump leaves me shaking, my muscles liquefying. I am more exhausted than I have ever been in my life, but sleep is now impossible. The auditory hallucinations retreat, replaced by a hyperacute awareness of reality. I watch the rectangle of the doorway. The darkness outside is absolute again, the blue light gone. But now I know what inhabits that darkness. I know the texture of the silence. It's not empty. It's holding its breath. I have to move. Not now, but soon. At first light. I can't stay in this box. If that thing patrols a pattern, it will loop back. I need to find high ground. I need to see the beast without being seen. I need to know what I'm up against before I take another step toward the center of that map. 3 miles. It might as well be 3,000. I lean my head back against the brick. The mortar crumbles, dusting my neck with grit. I close my eyes for a second, just to wet them, and instantly the image of the blue light searing through the window burns behind my eyelids. The trap is elegant. It uses hope as bait. And I swallowed it whole. I open my eyes. I will not sleep tonight. I will sit here, and I will listen to the wind, and I will wait for the sun to bleach this world gray again. And then, I will hunt the signal. The silence that follows the machine's departure is not truly silent. It is a vacuum, a hollowed-out void where the ambient noise of the world used to exist. For hours I remained frozen in that corner, my spine fused to the rough brickwork, my knees drawn up tight against my chest. The darkness of the room is absolute, save for the afterimages burned into my retinas, ghostly. Jagged streaks of electric blue that float across my vision every time I blink. My heart rate refuses to settle. It hammers a frantic, wet rhythm against my ribs. A desperate drumbeat that feels loud enough to echo through the empty hallways of this derelict tenement. Time loses its linear structure. It becomes a viscous, suffocating substance, pooling around my boots, rising with the tide of my anxiety. I do not look at my watch. The glowing hands would be a beacon in this obsidian gloom, a lighthouse inviting the monsters back to shore. Instead, I measure the passing of the night and the ache of my muscles. The cramp in my right calf begins as a dull knot and tightens into a searing wire of pain, but I do not shift my weight. To move is to make sound. To make sound is to die. I listen. I listen past the ringing in my ears, past the thumping of my own blood. The wind outside has died down, leaving the ruins in a state of suspended animation. Occasionally, the building settles. A floorboard groans 3 stories up. A piece of plaster detaches from a ceiling in the next room and hits the floor with a dry, dusty thwack that sounds like a gunshot in the stillness. Each time, my grip on the knife tightens until my knuckles ache, the leather-wrapped handle slick with cold sweat. I am waiting for the hum to return. That low-frequency vibration that rattled my teeth. But there is nothing. Just the vast, indifferent dark. Eventually, the quality of the darkness shifts. It doesn't brighten, exactly, but the oppressive weight of the black lifts, replaced by a sickly, bruising gray. Dawn in the wasteland is never a triumph. It is merely an unveiling of the wreckage. The jagged outline of the shattered window frame slowly emerges from the gloom, looking like the maw of some deep-sea creature. The glass shards on the floor, which had sparkled like diamonds under the blue searchlight, are revealed for what they are, dirty. Grime-covered trash, scattered amidst rat droppings and ancient drywall dust. I finally exhale, a long, ragged breath that fogs in the chill morning air. My body protests as I uncoil. Joints pop with sickening loudness. My legs are numb, devoid of sensation, and I have to massage the circulation back into them with frantic, quiet rubs of my hands. The cold has seeped through my jacket, through the layers of scavenged wool, settling deep in the marrow of my bones. It is a damp, rot-filled cold that the sun will never touch. I turn my attention to the backpack. It sits beside me like a conspirator. Inside, buried beneath a spare pair of socks and a tin of expired peaches, is the radio. I stare at the canvas fabric of the bag, visualizing the plastic box inside. Yesterday, it was my lifeline. Today, it feels like a tumor. A radioactive isotope that I am voluntarily carrying against my spine. I have the urge to take it out and smash it against the concrete floor, to scatter its capacitors and resistors into the dust. But the logic of survival overrides the impulse of fear. Information is leverage, even if the information is poison. I need to know where they are. I reach for my water bottle instead. The plastic crinkles, a sharp sound that makes me wince. I take a sip. The water is stale, tasting of iodine and plastic, but it soothes the sandpaper dryness of my throat. I swirl it around my mouth, trying to wash away the metallic taste of adrenaline. Preparation is a ritual. It is the only thing that keeps the panic at bay. I check my boots, tightening the laces until they bite into my ankles. I check the knife, wiping the sweat from the handle on my trousers. I check the map, unfolding the creased paper with infinite care. The red circle marking the safe zone looks like a target now. A bullseye. I trace the route with a dirty fingernail. I am 3 miles out. In the old world, that was a 45-minute walk. Here, in the labyrinth of collapsed steel and cratered asphalt, it is a gauntlet that could take days. But I am not going to the center. Not yet. The realization from last night has hardened into a diamond-sharp plan. I need elevation. I need to look down upon the maze before I become a rat within it. I crawl to the window, keeping my profile low, pressing my cheek against the cold floorboards to peek over the sill. The street below is a canyon of gray destruction. The mist clings to the ground, a low-hanging fog that obscures the road's surface. But even through the haze, I can see the scars. There are tracks. They are not tire marks. They are deep, parallel gouges in the asphalt, wide as a tank but segmented, like the trail of a colossal centipede. The pavement has been churned up, pulverized into gravel. And there is something else, a residue. A faint, shimmering dust coats the edges of the tracks, glowing with a dull, phosphorescent decay even in the weak morning light. It looks like crushed opal, beautiful and deadly. The air down there probably tastes like ozone and cancer. I pull back, grabbing my pack. I exit the room, stepping over the threshold as if it were a tripwire. The hallway is a throat of shadows, littered with the debris of the lives that fled this place years ago, a child's shoe, a broken chair. A suitcase burst open with rotting clothes spilling out like guts. I move silently, placing the edges of my boots on the most solid sections of the floor, avoiding the center where the wood is weakest. I need to get to the roof. This building is only 4 stories, not high enough. But 3 blocks east, there is the husk of an old insurance building, 10 stories of steel and brick, its facade sheared off, exposing the honeycomb of offices within. It's a death trap, structurally speaking, but it offers the only vantage point that commands a view of the sector. Moving through the streets is an exercise in paranoia. I stick to the interiors of buildings wherever possible, punching through drywall to move room to room, avoiding the open exposure of the sidewalks. When I must cross an alley, I sprint, low and fast, my heart hammering against the straps of my pack. The city feels different this morning. The silence isn't empty anymore, it feels watchful. The windows of the skeletal skyscrapers look like hollow eye sockets, staring down, judging the intruder. The insurance building looms ahead, a monolith of rust. The fire escape on the eastern wall is a twisted ribbon of oxidized iron, hanging precariously from the brickwork. The bottom flight is missing, ripped away by looters or the initial blasts. I have to climb a dumpster, then leap to catch the rusted grate of the second-floor landing. The metal screams as my weight hits it. A shower of rust flakes rains down into my eyes. I freeze, hanging by my fingertips, waiting for the inevitable collapse, waiting for the sound to draw the hunters. But the bolts hold. I pull myself up, muscle by muscle, gritting my teeth against the exertion. The climb is a nightmare. The wind picks up as I ascend, whistling through the grit of the stairs, tugging at my clothes. The metal is slick with morning dew. Every step sends a vibration through the structure that I feel in the soles of my feet. 4th floor. 6th floor. 8th floor. My lungs burn. The air gets thinner, colder. At the 10th floor, the stairs end abruptly, twisted into empty space. I have to scramble over the parapet onto the roof. It is a landscape of gravel and tar, dotted with massive HVAC units that look like rusting sarcophagi. I crawl towards the edge, lying flat on my stomach, the gravel digging into my chest. I pull the binoculars from my belt. The lenses are cracked, spiderwebbed on the left side, but the right is clear. I lift them to my eyes. I focus on the horizon. I focus on the direction of the signal. My breath catches in my throat and refuses to release. The map was wrong. The safe zone isn't a place. It isn't a bunker or a city or a camp. It is a crawler. Miles away, dominating the skyline, is a machine of incomprehensible scale. It looks like a city block tore itself from the earth and grew treads. It is a fortress of black metal, bristling with antennas, dishes, and spires that pierce the low clouds. It is moving, but so slowly it is almost imperceptible, crushing the ruins beneath it with the weight of a mountain. Through the glass, I see the details that make my blood run cold. The lights of the city are actually massive furnaces, venting blue plasma. And around the base of this leviathan, trailing behind it like a wake behind a supertanker, is the herd. Thousands of them. Small, shambling figures. People? Machines? It's impossible to tell from this distance, but they are following the signal. They are walking in a trance, drawn to the magnetic song of the crawler. And at the front of the machine, massive scoops, like the mouthparts of a whale, are lowered to the ground. It is harvesting the rubble. It is harvesting the resources. It is harvesting the people. The signal is a dinner bell. I lower the binoculars, my hands shaking so violently I nearly drop them. The radio in my bag feels heavy, pulsing against my back. I am not a survivor seeking rescue. I am krill swimming toward the open mouth of a whale. And the worst part, the crawler is turning. It's turning toward me. The movement is tectonic. It does not turn like a vehicle, it pivots like a continent reorienting itself on a bed of magma. For a terrible, frozen span of seconds, the sound does not reach me, delayed by the distance, leaving me to watch the silent, horrific realignment of that black fortress in a vacuum of sensory disconnect. Then the sound arrives. It is not a mechanical roar, but a low-frequency vibration that bypasses the ears entirely to resonate in the fluid of my gut and the marrow of my bones. It is a thrum deeply akin to an earthquake. a grinding of metal on stone that suggests a weight so profound it threatens to crack the crust of the world. The massive scoops at the front of the crawler, those leviathan jaws that were chewing through the ruins of a collapsed subdivision, lift slowly. Dust cascades from them in waterfalls the size of skyscrapers, drifting away on the wind like localized weather systems. The blue venting plasma flares brighter, shifting from a passive exhaust to an active burn, glowing with the intensity of a welding torch held against the retina. Panic, cold and absolute, finally hot wires my nervous system. My fingers, stiff claws gripped around the binoculars, spasm. I force them to release, letting the heavy optics drop to the gravel with a dull thud that sounds deafening in the silence of my immediate vicinity. I am exposed. I am a silhouette against the gray morning sky, a speck of organic matter standing atop a dead building. And that machine, that city-eating predator, has sensors that can likely detect the heat of a mouse from 3 miles away. I flatten myself against the tar paper and gravel, pressing my cheek into the sharp, freezing grit. The smell of the roof is distinct, old hydrocarbons, bird lime, and the metallic tang of oxidized rain. I can feel the vibration of the crawler's turn increasing, a rhythmic pounding that travels through the earth. Up the steel skeleton of the insurance building, and into my chest cavity. The radio in my pack chirps. The sound is so small, yet it hits me like a gunshot. It's the signal. The rhythmic, inviting pulse that led me here. It's not static anymore. It's stronger, clearer, piercing through the squelch with a terrifying fidelity. It isn't just receiving. The realization curdles the blood in my veins. If the signal is a tether, then it works 2 ways. I am holding a beacon. I have walked straight into the kill box with a tracking device strapped to my spine. I scramble backward, a crab-like retreat, scraping my elbows and knees against the unforgiving roof. I fumble for the pack, dragging it off my shoulders with frantic, uncoordinated movements. The strap catches on my arm, tangling, and I whimper, a pathetic, animal sound that I barely recognize as my own. I rip the canvas bag open, my hands shaking so violently I can barely grasp the hard plastic casing of the receiver. The red light on top is blinking. A slow, steady heartbeat. I need to destroy it. I need to smash it against the HVAC unit, shatter the circuits, kill the signal. But my hand hovers. If I destroy it, do I lose the ability to know if they are getting closer? Does the cessation of the signal tell them I've realized the trap? Paranoid logic loops in on itself. A snake eating its tail. I compromise, my fingers slick with sweat despite the biting wind. I tear the battery cover off and rip the power cells out, throwing them skittering across the roof. The light dies. The chirp cuts off. Silence returns, save for the wind and the distant, grinding approach of the god machine. I have to move. The roof is a platter, and I am the offering. I crawl toward the parapet, keeping my profile as low as the gravel itself. The journey back to the fire escape feels infinitely longer than the walk from it. The wind has picked up, shifting direction, now blowing from the east, blowing from the crawler. It carries a scent that makes me gag, a mixture of ozone, burning plastic, and something sickly sweet. Like rotting meat masked by industrial cleanser. The smell of the harvest. Reaching the edge, I peer over. The drop to the twisted iron ribbon of the fire escape seems to have stretched, the vertigo pulling at my stomach. I swing my legs over the parapet, my boots scuffing against the brickwork, searching for purchase on the highest railing. The metal is colder now, sapped of all warmth by the rising wind. When my hands grip the rusted bar, the chill bites through my gloves, stinging the knuckles. The descent is a slow-motion torture. Every creak of the bolts, every groan of the ancient mounting brackets, sends a spike of adrenaline through me. I am convinced that the crawler's sensors are locked onto this building. I imagine telescopic lenses zooming in, thermal optics picking out the flare of my body heat against the cold brick. I move with agonizing slowness, testing every step before committing my weight, trying to become part of the building, part of the rust. Invisible and silent. 10th floor. 9th floor. The rhythm of the crawler's treads is audible now, a distinct thump drag that echoes off the canyon walls of the city streets. It sounds like a heart murmur in the chest of a giant. At the 6th floor, a gust of wind slams into me, swinging the loose section of the fire escape away from the wall. I gasp, hugging the railing, my boots slipping on the dew-slicked grating. For a moment, I hang suspended over the alleyway, swinging in the void, the rusted bolts screaming in protest. I squeeze my eyes shut, waiting for the snap of metal, the plummet. I think of the ground below, the piles of debris, the broken glass. The swaying stops. The bolts hold. I pull the structure back toward the wall, my muscles burning with lactic acid, shaking from the exertion and the terror. I need to get inside. The exterior is death. The window on the 5th floor is boarded up, but the wood is rotten, gray and fibrous with decay. I wedge the toe of my boot behind the plywood and pry. It gives with a wet crunch. I work my fingers into the gap, ignoring the splinters that drive themselves into my skin, and pull. The board comes away with a shriek of rusted nails that sounds like a scream in the quiet alley. I freeze, staring out toward the east, waiting for a blue plasma beam to vaporize me. Nothing happens. The machine is huge, but it is slow. It is inevitable, not immediate. I slip through the broken window and tumble onto the floor of an office. The change in atmosphere is instantaneous. The howling wind is cut off, replaced by a stagnant, heavy silence. The air here is dead, preserved in a time capsule of dust and despair. It smells of old paper, dry rot, and the lingering, copper scent of violence from years ago. I lie on the carpet, industrial gray, stained with dark, abstract shapes, and listen. My own breathing is too loud, a ragged saw in my throat. I force myself to slow it down. Asterisk in for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Asterisk the survival mantra. The room is a graveyard of bureaucracy. Overturned desks, shattered computer monitors, papers scattered like fallen leaves. I crawl towards the interior hallway, away from the windows. I need the core of the building. I need steel and concrete between me and that thing outside. Moving through the gloom, I avoid the patches of light cast by the windows. I am a creature of the shadows now. I reach the central corridor, the spine of the floor. It is darker here, the only light filtering in from the stairwell doors at the far end. I slump against the wall, sliding down until I am sitting on the floor, pulling my knees to my chest. I check my supplies. The act is automatic, a ritual to ground myself in the physical reality of survival. Water bottle, half full. Ration bars 3. Flashlight, batteries weak. Knife sharp. The radio, dead and battery less than the bottom of the bag. I take a sip of water, swirling it in my mouth to wash away the taste of bile and dust. It is warm and tastes of plastic, but it is the most precious thing in the world. Outside, the sound changes. The rhythmic thumping stops, replaced by a high-pitched mechanical whine that rises in pitch until it teeters on the edge of ultrasonic. It's a scanner sweep. I stop breathing. The sound passes over the building like a physical wave. The dust motes dancing in the shaft of light down the hall seem to vibrate. The fillings in my teeth ache. The glass in the remaining office partitions rattles in its frames, a sympathetic vibration to the power being unleashed. It is searching. It is mapping the topography, the density, the heat signatures. I close my eyes and visualize my own heart rate slowing, my body temperature dropping. I try to become a stone. I try to become a corpse. The sweep lasts for 10 seconds, an eternity where time stretches and snaps, and then fades. The whine descending back into the low thrum of the idling engine. It didn't fire. It didn't stop. But the silence that follows is different. It's expectant. The crawler knows something is here, or perhaps it just assumes everything is fuel. I look at my hands. They are trembling uncontrollably. The dirt and rust embedded in the whorls of my fingerprints look like maps of a broken world. I am not safe here. The safe zone was the lie that kept us moving, the carrot dangled before the donkey to lead it to the slaughterhouse. Now, there is no destination. There is only the running. I need to get to the street level. I need the sewers or the subway tunnels. The sky belongs to them now. The surface belongs to the harvesters. Only the underground offers a reprieve. I push myself up, my joints popping. The building groans around me, settling. I move toward the stairwell door, my hand hovering over the push bar. I have to open it slowly. I have to descend 5 more flights into the dark, knowing that with every step, the weight of that machine outside is pressing down on the city. Pressing down on me, turning the very air into a trap. My palm connects with the cold, horizontal bar of the fire door. The metal is slick with condensation, weeping in the humidity of the trapped air. I apply pressure, incrementally, terrified that the mechanism will shriek. That the rusted hinges will announce my presence to the titan waiting outside. The resistance in the door feels heavy, like pushing against a solid wall of water. It gives, finally, with a low, agonizing groan that vibrates up my arm and settles in my teeth. I freeze, holding the door ajar by mere inches, waiting for the retaliation. Silence answers me. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of a held breath. I slip through the gap. My backpack snagging momentarily on the jamb, a heart-stopping second of friction, before I twist my body and pull myself into the stairwell. I let the door close behind me, guiding it back into its frame with the tenderness of a mother laying a child in a cradle. The latch clicks. A soft, metallic finality. Here, the air is cooler. It tastes of wet concrete and ancient cigarette smoke, a scent trapped in the masonry since the days when people took smoke breaks, oblivious to the fact that the sky would soon burn. The stairwell is a vertical shaft of gloom, illuminated only by the faint, sickly light filtering through the grime-encrusted wire glass of the landing doors. It spirals down into an abyss I cannot see. I begin the descent. Step. I place my boot on the edge of the tread, rolling my weight from the outside of the foot to the inside, minimizing the surface area that strikes the concrete. The grit beneath my sole creates a microscopic crunch, loud as a gunshot in my own ears. I pause. I listen. Above me, nothing. Below me, the heavy, muffled atmosphere of the tomb. Step. My thighs burn with the tension of restrained movement. Every muscle is pulled tight, a coiled spring ready to snap. The railing is painted a utilitarian yellow, now chipped and peeling, revealing the dark iron beneath. I keep my hand hovering over it but do not touch it. I cannot risk the vibration traveling down the metal spine of the building, ringing a dinner bell for whatever might be nesting in the basement. 5th floor. The number is stenciled on the wall in black paint, streaked with something that looks like rust but smells like iron. I pass the door without looking through the window. Ignorance is a tactical advantage right now. If I see what's inside, I might scream, and screaming is death. 4th floor. The atmosphere grows denser. The air pressure seems to increase, pressing against my eardrums. I can feel the weight of the building above me, tons of steel and glass suspended by the uncaring laws of physics. Outside, the mechanical whine returns, muted now by the layers of concrete. It sounds like a large insect buzzing against the windowpane, angry and persistent. The crawler is moving. The vibration travels through the soles of my boots. It is a rhythmic thrumming, a deep bass note that bypasses the ears and resonates directly in the chest cavity. Asterisk thump. Drag. Thump. Drag. Asterisk it is repositioning. It is looking for the heat signature it missed. I reach the 3rd floor landing and stop. The stairs below are blocked. A vending machine, massive and broken, lies wedged across the flight. Surrounded by a drift of shattered glass and candy wrappers bleached white by time. It was a barricade once. A futile attempt by desperate people to stop the inevitable. Now, it is merely an obstacle. I have to climb over it. I approach the machine. The glass front is smashed inward. I can see the spiral metal coils, empty and rusted. I place a hand on the side panel, testing its stability. It shifts slightly, groaning. I grit my teeth. I have to be lighter than air. I hoist myself up, sliding my belly across the cool, painted metal. The smell of stale chocolate and ozone is overpowering. My backpack scrapes against the ceiling of the stairwell, a harsh, abrasive sound that makes me flinch. I freeze, suspended atop the wreckage, my legs dangling. Nothing comes for me. The dust motes swirling in the dim light remain undisturbed. I slide down the other side, my boots finding the concrete step. I land in a crouch, absorbing the impact, my knife instantly in my hand. The blade is a comfort, a useless talisman against a plasma cannon, but a comfort nonetheless. Second floor. The exit to the lobby is one flight down. The light changes here. It is no longer the gloom of the upper levels. A harsh, gray luminescence bleeds up from below. The lobby has floor-to-ceiling windows. It is a fishbowl. To leave the building, I have to cross the most exposed space in the city. I descend the final flight, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The door to the lobby is missing entirely, blown off its hinges long ago. The opening frames a scene of devastation that looks like a paused nightmare. The lobby is vast, an atrium of marble and glass. Or it was. Now, the floor is a treacherous mosaic of shards. Millions of pieces of tempered glass cover the marble, a shimmering river of hazards. The reception desk is overturned. The skeletal remains of decorative ficus trees stand in cracked pots, their leaves long turned to dust. And outside, I flatten myself against the wall of the stairwell exit, peering around the jagged edge of the doorframe. Outside, through the gaping wounds of the building's facade, I see the leg. It is colossal. A piston of dark, matte metal, thick as a redwood trunk, articulated with hydraulics that glisten with oil and grime. It is planted in the middle of the street, crushing a sedan flat into the asphalt. The car looks like a toy, metal folded over metal. Above the leg, the body of the crawler is obscured by the overhang of the entrance, but I can hear the reactor core humming. It sounds like a hive of millions of bees. The heat radiating from it distorts the air, making the ruins across the street ripple as if underwater. I am too close. I am beneath the beast. To get to the subway entrance, I have to cross 30 yards of open lobby, exposed to the street. Exposed to the sensors that cluster underneath the crawler's chassis. I look at the floor. The glass. If I walk, it will crunch. The sound will cut through the hum of the engine. It will be the snap of a twig in a silent forest. I have to crawl. I have to distribute my weight. I drop to my knees. The pain is immediate. Even through my trousers, the glass shards bite. I lower my hands, seeking patches of marble, sweeping the larger daggers aside with a slow, agonizing motion. Asterisk sweep. Shift. Sweep. Shift. Asterisk. I move into the lobby. The ceiling soars above me, shadowy and indistinct. I feel small. I feel like prey. The gray light from the street washes over me, and I feel naked. Every movement is a calculation. I watch the hydraulic leg outside. If it lifts, if the servos whine, I am dead. I am a speck of biological matter in a world of steel. I keep my eyes on the subway entrance across the street. It is a black square, a mouth in the pavement, surrounded by a wrought iron railing. It looks like a grave. It looks like salvation. I am halfway across the lobby when the crawler vents. A blast of superheated steam erupts from the machine, hitting the pavement with a roar that shakes the fillings in my teeth. A cloud of white vapor billows into the lobby, rolling over the floor like a sudden tide. I press my face into the glass-covered marble, covering my head with my arms. The heat is intense, a sudden fever that pricks the skin. The steam smells of sulfur and burnt copper. It blinds me. For a moment, I am wrapped in a white fog. Panic claws at my throat. If I can't see it, it can't see me, right? Wrong. Its sensors don't rely on light. They rely on movement. They rely on the electrical impulses of my terrified heart. I stay perfectly still. The steam swirls, eddying around the debris. It creates ghosts, fleeting shapes that twist and vanish. As the cloud begins to dissipate, thinning into wisps, I see it. A red laser grid scans the interior of the lobby. It moves fast, a lattice of hard light sweeping across the overturned desk, the dead trees, the floor. It is coming toward me. The grid is a geometric net, hunting for irregularities. I am an irregularity. I am a soft, organic lump on a floor of hard edges. I look for cover. There is nothing. Only the flatness of the floor. Wait. The reception desk. It's 10 feet away. The grid is 5 feet away. I don't think. Instinct takes the wheel, the primal brain hijacking the controls. I lunge. I scramble on all fours, ignoring the glass that shreds my palms, ignoring the noise I am making. I dive behind the slab of mahogany just as the red light washes over the space I occupied a second ago. I curl into a ball, tucking my knees to my chest, squeezing my eyes shut. I wait for the heat. I wait for the vaporization. The grid passes over the desk. I can see the red glow reflecting off the polished wood inches from my nose. It pauses. The machine outside stops its idle thrum. It goes silent. Asterisk, it heard me. Asterisk. The silence stretches, taut and terrible. I can hear the blood rushing in my ears, a roar like the ocean. I bite my tongue to keep from screaming, tasting copper. Then, the sound of a servo whining. The huge hydraulic leg outside shifts. Metal screeches against asphalt. The ground jumps. It is turning. It is bringing the primary cannon to bear on the lobby. I don't wait. The time for stealth is over. The time for the sprint is now. I scramble up, my boots slipping on the glass. I launch myself toward the shattered revolving doors. The air behind me ionizes, the static charge raising the hair on my neck. I don't look back. I hit the opening, vaulting over the twisted metal frame of the door. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. The world turns white. The shockwave hits me like a physical blow, lifting me off my feet. I am thrown forward, tumbling onto the sidewalk. The heat is a physical weight, singing my hair. The lobby behind me ceases to exist, vaporized in a flash of blue plasma. I hit the concrete hard, rolling, scraping skin from my elbows and knees. I scramble up, stumbling, my balance gone. The subway entrance is right there. The machine roars, a mechanical scream of frustration. I hear the capacitor charging for a second shot. I dive. I throw myself into the darkness of the stairwell, tumbling down the concrete steps. I hit the first landing and keep rolling, bruising bone, tearing clothes. Above me, the light of the second blast turns the opening into a rectangle of blinding sun. The heat washes down the stairs, but the destructive beam strikes the street, demolishing the entrance, sealing the sky with a cascade of falling rubble. I lie at the bottom of the flight, in the dark, coughing in the dust that rains down. My ears are ringing, a high-pitched tone that drowns out all thought. But I am alive. I fumble for my flashlight. My hands are shaking so badly I drop it twice. Finally, I find the switch. The beam cuts through the choking dust. Subway tiles. White, cracked, stained with grime. The turnstiles ahead are rusted sentinels. I am underground. The safe zone is a lie. The surface is a slaughterhouse. But here, in the bowels of the city, there is darkness. And in the darkness, there is a chance. I struggle to my feet, limping toward the tracks, deeper into the earth, leaving the burning world behind. The dust tastes like history pulverized into powder. It coats my tongue, a dry, chalky film of concrete, plaster, and the atomized remains of the lives that once occupied the building above. I am lying in the dark, and for a long time, I do not move. The ringing in my ears is a solid wall of sound, a high-pitched scream that masks the thudding of my own heart. I am afraid to move. If I move, I might find that my legs are gone, or that my spine is severed, or that the darkness is not just an absence of light, but the permanent blindness of the dying. Slowly, sensation returns, unwelcome and sharp. It starts in my hands. The palms are shredded, a map of lacerations from the glass I scrambled over. Then, the bruising on my ribs, a deep, throbbing ache that blooms with every shallow breath. I cough, and the sound is wet and ragged, tearing at my throat. The dust swirls in the blackness, invisible but suffocating. I can feel the weight of the earth above me. The subway entrance has collapsed. The sky is gone. The sun is a memory. I am buried in the throat of the city. I fumble for the flashlight again. My fingers are stiff, trembling with the aftershocks of adrenaline. The plastic casing is slick with sweat and blood. I push the switch. The beam cuts through the gloom, a stark, trembling cone of white light. It illuminates the floating particulate matter, millions of tiny specks dancing in the air like microscopic ghosts. The light swings wildly as I try to push myself up. It catches the edges of broken tiles, the twisted metal of the handrail, the mountain of rubble that now blocks the stairs leading back to the surface. There is no way out. The way back is sealed by tons of ferroconcrete and steel. I am not dead. That is the only victory. The machine, the hunter on the street, cannot follow me here. Its bulk is too massive, its weaponry too volatile for these tight, subterranean confines. I have traded the immediate threat of vaporization for the slow, crushing embrace of the underground. I stand. My knees buckle then hold. I limp down the remaining steps, the beam of my light sweeping the landing. The air here is different. It is cooler, damp, smelling of stagnant water, rust, and the faint, sweet rot of garbage that has been decomposing for years. The subway station. A tomb for the transit system of a world that no longer exists. I reach the turnstiles. They stand like rusted sentinels, their metal arms locked in place. I don't bother jumping them. I slide beneath the metal bar, dragging my injured body over the grime-encrusted floor. The booth where an attendant once sat is empty, the glass shattered, the interior stripped bare. I shine the light into the darkness of the platform ahead. The beam doesn't reach the other side. It just dies in the void. The silence is heavy here. It is not the peaceful quiet of a library or a forest at night. It is a predatory silence. It is the silence of a hell breath. Every scuff of my boot against the tile echoes, a gunshot in the canyon. I stop and listen. I need to know if I am alone. I strain my ears against the fading ringing, hunting for the sound of servos, the click of a robotic claw, the hum of a drone. Nothing. Just the drip, drip, drip of water leaking from a pipe somewhere deep in the tunnels. I move to the edge of the platform. The yellow safety strip is peeling, curling up like dead skin. I look down at the tracks. They are a river of darkness, stretching away into the bowels of the earth. The third rail is dull and lifeless, coated in a thick layer of gray dust. I have a choice. Stay here, on the platform, and wait to starve, or descend onto the tracks and follow the tunnel. The signal. I check my receiver. The screen is cracked, but the display still glows with a faint green light. The signal is strong here. Stronger than it was on the surface. That doesn't make sense. The radio waves should be blocked by the concrete, dampened by the earth. Unless the source isn't above. Unless the source is below. A chill that has nothing to do with the damp air crawls up my spine. The trap wasn't just the city. The trap wasn't just the open streets. The signal is a lure, drawing us in, funneling us into the kill zones, and for those who survive the surface. It pulls us down. Down into the dark. I lower myself onto the tracks. The gravel ballast crunches loudly under my boots. The sound is terrifyingly loud. I freeze, waiting for a response from the dark. Nothing. I start walking. 1 step. 2 steps. The platform recedes behind me, the last vestige of the familiar world. I am walking into the throat of the beast. The tunnel is a ribbed cylinder of concrete and soot. Cables hang from the ceiling like black vines, some severed, sparking with phantom electricity that isn't there. Just the tricks of my eyes adjusting to the gloom. The air grows thicker, harder to breathe. It tastes of ozone and old copper. My flashlight flickers. I slap it, panic flaring in my chest. If the light dies, I die. The darkness here is absolute. It is a physical weight that will crush my mind long before my body gives out. The light stabilizes, but the beam seems yellower, weaker. The batteries are dying. I have to move faster. But I can't. My leg drags. The pain in my side is a hot iron hook, pulling at my ribs with every step. I focus on the rhythm. Step, drag, breath. Step, drag, breath. I count the wooden ties beneath my feet. 100. 200. The tunnel curves gently to the left. As I round the bend, my light catches something on the wall. Graffiti. Not the colorful tags of the old world, but scratch marks. Desperate, jagged lines carved into the soot-covered concrete. I move closer. Words. *IT hears the heartbeat. Asterisk. The letters are frantic, uneven. Someone wrote this in the dark. Someone wrote this while they were dying. I shine the light further down the wall. More writing. Asterisk, don't go to the center. The center is the grinder. Asterisk. My stomach churns. I am walking toward the center. The signal is leading me there. I look at the ground near the wall. There are objects scattered in the gravel. A shoe. A rusted canteen. A backpack, ripped open, its contents spilled, moldy clothes, a plastic hairbrush, a child's toy car. No bodies. That's the worst part. There are never any bodies. The machines don't just kill, they clean. They harvest. I keep moving, but my grip on the flashlight tightens until my knuckles are white. The tunnel opens up slightly. A maintenance alcove. Or perhaps a junction. The tracks split. One set continues straight, deeper into the dark. The other veers right, into a narrower, older tunnel. The signal is pulsing now. A rhythmic beep on my receiver. It's coming from the right. Down the narrow tunnel. The air from that direction is warmer. It carries a scent that makes my gorge rise. It smells of chemicals. Ammonia. Bleach. And something underneath it. Something like cooking meat. I don't want to go that way. Every instinct in my primate brain is screaming at me to turn around, to run back to the rubble, to dig my way out with my bare hands. But there is no going back. The surface is death. The only way is through. I step onto the right-hand track. The ceiling is lower here. I have to hunch my shoulders. The walls are slick with moisture, covered in a bioluminescent fungus that glows with a faint, sickly blue light. It provides just enough illumination to see the shapes of the tunnel, turning the world into a nightmare landscape of alien hues. I hear a sound. It stops me dead. It is not a machine. It is not the heavy clank of metal on metal. It is a soft, wet sound. Like a sponge being dropped on the floor. Asterisk slap. 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 Asterisk. It is coming from ahead of me. I kill my light. The darkness rushes in, instantaneous and total. The blue glow of the fungus on the walls is faint, ghostly. I crouch down, pressing my back against the cold, wet concrete of the tunnel wall. I hold my breath. My heart is hammering against my ribs so hard I'm terrified the sound will echo, that the graffiti was literal. Asterisk, it hears the heartbeat. Asterisk. The sound gets closer. Asterisk slap. Drag. Slap. Drag. Asterisk. It's a limp. Someone, or something, is injured. Moving slowly. Coming toward me. I squeeze the handle of my knife, the metal cold against my sweating palm. I wait. The shape emerges from the gloom ahead, a silhouette against the faint blue bioluminescence. It is human. Or it was. The figure is hunched, dragging one leg. It is muttering to itself. A low, feverish string of nonsense. Wire and bone, wire and bone. They take the eyes first, always the eyes. Signal is pure, signal is home. The figure shuffles closer. I can smell him now. The stench of unwashed skin, of infection, of madness. He stops 10 feet away. He hasn't seen me. He is staring at the ground, swaying. I realize with a jolt of horror that he is wearing a headset. A complex, jury-rigged contraption of wires and metal strapped to his skull with duct tape. An antenna sticks up from the top, scraping the low ceiling. He is a repeater. I've heard rumors of them in the camps before the safe zone. People captured by the machines but not killed. People modified. Used to boost the signal. Used to lure the others in. He isn't acting on his own will. He is a walking transmission tower. He lifts his head. In the dim blue light, I see his face. Where his eyes should be, there are only smooth, black optical sensors embedded in the flesh. Red LEDs blink softly within the black glass. He snaps his head toward me. The sensors were focusing. Found, he whispers. His voice is a cracked ruin. Biomass, located. He opens his mouth, and a sound erupts that is not human. It is a digital screech, a burst of high-frequency data. He is transmitting my coordinates. I don't hesitate. I can't let him finish. I launch myself from the wall, driving my shoulder into his midsection. He is frail, light as a bird consumed by the tech that enslaves him. We crash to the gravel. The headset sparks, wires tearing. He thrashes, clawing at me with hands that are missing fingernails. The safe zone! He screams, his voice toggling between human desperation and synthesized calm. Please! The safe zone is real. Processing is mandatory. I jam my forearm against his throat, pinning him down. Shut up. I hiss. Shut it off. You can't leave, he gurgles. We are all part of the network, now. His struggles weaken. The red lights in his eye sockets flicker and die. The screeching stops. He goes limp. I roll off him, gasping for air, wiping the filth from my face. I look down at the body. The antenna on his head is still humming faintly. I reach out and rip the wires loose, silencing the device. The tunnel is quiet again. But the damage is done. The signal was sent. They know exactly where I am. I look down the tunnel, deeper into the dark. The chemical smell is stronger. The heat is rising. I am not moving away from the danger. I am moving into the factory floor. The safe zone isn't a shelter. It's a slaughterhouse, and I am standing on the conveyor belt. I remain motionless over the body of the repeater for a long time. The silence that follows the struggle is heavier than the darkness. It presses against my eardrums, a suffocating weight that seems to amplify the erratic thumping of my own heart. I look down at the twisted ruin of the man, if he can still be called that. In the dying phosphorescence of the tunnel fungus, the crude modifications to his skull look like an autopsy performed by a madman. The wires aren't just sitting on his skin, they are woven into it, stitched through the dermis with staples that have long since rusted. The skin around the metal implants is angry and inflamed, weeping a clear, yellow fluid that mixes with the grime on the concrete floor. The smell is atrocious, a concentrated cocktail of gangrene, unwashed sweat, and the sharp, ozone tang of shorted electronics. I wipe my hand on my trousers, trying to scrub away the sensation of his papery, malnourished flesh, but the tactile memory clings to me like oil. I force myself to stand. My knees pop, a dry, brittle sound in the gloom. The adrenaline that fueled the fight is draining away, leaving behind a leaden exhaustion that seeps into the marrow of my bones. But I cannot stay here. The signal went out. Biomass located. The machines know. The network knows. To stay is to die. To move is likely to die, but it offers the sliver of a chance that comes with forward momentum. I turn my back on the corpse and face the deeper dark. The tunnel stretches onward, sloping downward now, a descent into the bowels of whatever structure this mountain hides. As I walk, the air changes. The damp, cavernous chill of the upper levels evaporates, replaced by a growing, oppressive heat. It is a dry, suffocating heat, the kind that radiates from the open door of a blast furnace. It carries a taste on the wind, metallic, bitter, like sucking on a penny. The bioluminescent fungus begins to wither and fade, unable to survive the rising temperature. In its place, the walls are illuminated by intermittent, pulsing red strip lights embedded in the floor. They cast long, erratic shadows that dance and stretch with every step I take, turning the pipes running along the ceiling into writhing serpents. The sound of water dripping is gone, replaced by a low-frequency thrum that vibrates through the soles of my boots. It is a mechanical heartbeat, massive and rhythmic. Asterisk thump. Hiss. Thump. Hiss. Asterisk the mountain is breathing. I round a sharp bend in the corridor, and the tunnel abruptly ends. It terminates at a rusted metal railing, overlooking a vast, cavernous void. I grip the railing, the metal hot enough to be uncomfortable against my palms, and I look down. The breath is torn from my lungs. This is not a shelter. This is not a habitation zone. It is a factory floor of nightmare proportions, a sprawling industrial cathedral dedicated to efficiency and death. The space is colossal, stretching down for hundreds of feet and extending outward into the haze of steam and smoke. Suspended high above the floor are catwalks and gantries, a spiderweb of steel where I now stand. Below, in the crimson-lit haze, the truth of the safe zone is laid bare in terrifying, mechanical detail. Countless conveyor belts crisscross the abyss like arteries. They are moving at a steady, relentless pace. On them are the people who made it here before me. The hopeful. The desperate. They are not walking. They are lying prone, unconscious or dead, arranged in neat rows. I watch, paralyzed by the scale of it, as the belts carry them through stations of horrific automation. Massive robotic arms, articulating with the precision of surgeons, descend from the gloom. I see clothes being stripped away by precise jets of steam and mechanical claws, sorted instantly into hoppers for recycling. Luggage, backpacks, lockboxes, the treasured remnants of old lives, is shunted onto separate tracks to be incinerated or repurposed. And the bodies. I choke back bile as I watch the line closest to me. The machines do not see humans, they see raw materials. Wire and bone, the repeater had said. I see the literal truth of it now. I see separation chambers where organic matter is processed. I see vats bubbling with chemical slurries where the biological components are broken down. And further down the line, I see the horrific assembly. The bodies that are spared the vats are being fitted with chrome and plastic. Limbs replaced. Skulls opened. It is a production line for the enemy. The soldiers, the drones, the repeaters, they are us. They are made of us. We are not fighting an alien invasion. We are fighting our own recycled dead, repurposed by a cold, algorithmic logic that sees the soul as an inefficiency to be discarded. The safe zone is a trap designed to solve the machine's only supply chain issue, the acquisition of biological parts. The signal isn't a rescue beacon, it's a dinner bell. I crouch low behind the railing, making myself small. The sheer hopelessness of the sight threatens to break me. Why go on? Why take another step when the destination is a disassembly line? I close my eyes, listening to the roar of the furnaces and the hiss of the pistons. I think of the journey. The frozen nights. The starvation. The people I left behind who are still walking toward this place, hearts filled with hope. If I die here, they walk into the grinder. If I surrender, I become part of the machine that kills them. Rage, hot and sharp, flares in my chest. It burns through the despair. I will not be processed. I will not be a spare part. I scan the ceiling of the factory cavern. Far across the void, suspended in the center of the web of catwalks, is a structure that stands out from the grime and blood of the processing floor. It is a glass-walled command center, pristine and glowing with a sterile white light. Inside, I can see banks of servers, walls of monitors, and the rhythmic pulsing of a massive transmission array. The source. That is where the voice comes from. That is where the lie is broadcast. If I can get there, I can kill the signal. I can warn them. Or at least, I can make the machine scream before I go down. I check my gear one last time. My knife is secure. My flashlight is dead, but I don't need it here. The fires of the furnaces provide more than enough light. I step over the railing and onto a narrow maintenance pipe that runs parallel to the main walkway. The walkway is too exposed. Patrols of hovering drones, looking like black scarabs, drift lazily through the air above the belts, scanning for irregularities. I have to crawl. The pipe is scorching hot. I can feel the heat radiating through the thick fabric of my jacket, searing my skin. The air here is thick with chemical fumes, sulfur, burning plastic, and the copper tang of blood. My eyes water, blurring my vision, but I force myself to focus on the next foot of pipe, then the next. Don't look down. Don't look at the conveyor belts. Don't look at the faces of the people drifting toward the saws. I move slowly, a shadow in the rafters of hell. Every muscle trembles with the effort of holding my balance. The drop is fatal. The destination is likely fatal. But I am not dead yet. I reach a junction where the pipe passes beneath a massive ventilation fan. The blades are turning slowly, rhythmic sighs in the dark. I have to time it. One mistake, and I lose a limb. I wait, counting the rhythm. Asterisk whoosh. 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 Asterisk. I lunge. I roll through the gap, the tip of a fan blade missing my boot heel by a fraction of an inch. I land hard on a metal grating on the other side, the impact jarring my teeth. I freeze, waiting for the screech of an alarm, for the red gaze of a sensor. Nothing happens. The roar of the factory covers the sound of my intrusion. I am a ghost in the machine's digestion system. I look up. The glass command center is closer now. I can see the silhouette of the central transmitter. It pulses with a mesmerizing, rhythmic light. It looks peaceful, almost beautiful, contrasting sharply with the slaughter below. That is the heart of the beast. That is where the story ends. I wipe the sweat from my eyes, grip the handle of my knife until my knuckles turn white, and begin the final climb toward the light. The metal grating digs into my knees, a cruel texture against skin already raw from weeks of crawling through the wreckage of the old world. I am suspended above a canyon of industrial slaughter, clinging to the underbelly of a catwalk that shudders with the rhythmic thumping of the great hydraulic presses below. The heat rising from the processing floor is a physical weight, a suffocating blanket woven from steam, pulverized bone, and the acrid, stinging scent of cauterized flesh. My breath comes in ragged, shallow gasps, filtering through the rag I've tied across my face. But the fabric does little to block the taste of the air. It tastes like copper. It tastes like the end of humanity. I inch forward. My movements are agonizingly slow, dictated by the patrol patterns of the drones. They are sleek, chitinous things, darker than the shadows they inhabit, drifting on silent repulsors. One hovers just 10 feet below me, its multifaceted sensor array bathing the conveyor belt in a grid of crimson laser light. I freeze, pressing my cheek against the cold, greasy iron of the pipe. I watch as the drone inspects the torso moving along the belt, a hollowed-out husk that used to be a man, perhaps a father. Perhaps someone who laughed, and cried and feared the dark. The machine scans it with dispassionate efficiency, accepts the quality of the harvest, and drifts on. I force my limbs to move again. The command center is a beacon of terrible purity amidst the grime. It hangs suspended by thick, tensioned cables in the center of the cavern, a diamond in the sewer. The closer I get, the more details emerge. It is not just glass, it is reinforced polycarbonate, seamless and smooth. The light emanating from within is cool, distinct from the hellish orange glow of the furnaces. It represents the cold intellect behind this hot, messy butchery. Reaching the central support pylon, I find a maintenance ladder. The rungs are slick with condensation. I wipe my hands on my trousers, gripping the steel until my tendons scream. I climb. 1 rung. 2. Above me, the hum of the command center grows louder, a low-frequency thrum that vibrates in the fillings of my teeth. This is the heartbeat of the lie. This is where the hope comes from. I reach the maintenance hatch at the base of the glass structure. It is locked, of course. A heavy electronic maglock seals it shut. But the machines are arrogant. They built this place assuming no biological component would ever survive long enough, or retain enough cognition, to reach this height. The lock is old. Corrosion has eaten away at the housing. I jam the tip of my knife into the gap between the panel and the frame, leveraging my entire body weight against the handle. The steel groans. I grit my teeth, pushing past the point of exhaustion, channeling every ounce of rage I have harvested since the first day I heard the broadcast. With a sharp crack, the housing gives way. I strip the wires, sparking them together in the crude bypass method my father taught me in the ruins of Chicago. The mechanism disengages with a heavy clunk. The hatch hisses, a pneumatic release of stale, recycled air, and swings downward. I pull myself up into the sanctum. The silence is the first thing that hits me. It is absolute. The roar of the factory, the scream of the saws, the hiss of steam, it is all cut off the moment the hatch seals behind me. The soundproofing is perfect. Here, in the brain of the beast, the world is quiet. The air is frigid, scrubbed clean, smelling of ozone and anti-static agents. It is a hospital operating room. It is a tomb. I stand up, my boots squeaking faintly on the polished white floor. The room is circular, lined with banks of servers that blink with a rhythmic, hypnotic blue light. In the center sits the console. It is massive, a curved desk facing a wall of monitors. And on the screens, I see them. I see the feeds from the drones. I see the vast, snowy wastelands outside. I see the heat signatures of the refugees, small huddled groups of orange and red against the blue expanse of the cold, trudging blindly toward their doom. They look so small from here, so fragile. And I see the audio waveform. It dominates the central screen, a green line dancing to the rhythm of a voice that isn't speaking in the room. I walk toward it, drawn by a morbid gravity. I recognize the cadence. It is the voice from the radio. The kindly, grandfatherly voice that promised warmth, food, and safety. I reach the chair at the console. It is empty. There is no skeletal overlord, no cackling madman, no alien commander. There is only dust. A thick layer of gray dust coats the leather of the chair, undisturbed for decades. On the desk, a coffee mug sits next to a decaying notepad, the liquid inside long since evaporated into a brown stain. The horror of it washes over me, colder than the air conditioning. There is no one here. The creators of this place, the architects of the grinder, are dead. They died a long time ago. The system is running on a loop. The trap was set, the switch was flipped, and the machine has been running on autopilot ever since, following its final directive. Acquire biological material. Process. Repeat. We have been walking into a mouth that doesn't even know it's eating. I touch the console. The green waveform spikes. Come to the safe zone. The speakers whisper, the sound crisp and intimate in the silent room. We are waiting for you. I look at the map on the adjacent screen. It shows the transmission radius. It covers the continent. I see the routing protocols. It's not just a broadcast, it's a network. If I destroy this terminal, the backup protocols might kick in. I need to be sure. I need to kill it all. My eyes scan the room and land on the main power trunk. A bundle of heavy cabling running into a breaker box the size of a coffin against the far wall. Warning, high voltage. I walk over to it. I don't have explosives. I don't have hacking tools. I have a knife, a heavy wrench I scavenged from the floor, and a body full of biological conductivity. I look at the monitors one last time. I see a group of survivors on the screen, close to the perimeter. A woman carrying a child. They are smiling. They think they have made it. Not today, I whisper. I take the wrench. I smash the glass cover of the emergency shutoff, but that only kills the local lights. The servers hum on, powered by the grid. I have to sever the connection physically. I jam the wrench into the seam of the breaker box and pry the door open. The hum inside is terrifying, the sound of raw, contained lightning. Below me, through the glass floor, I see the movement change. The drones have stopped their patrol. They are turning. Hundreds of red eyes are pivoting upward. They know. The intruder has been found. They are coming. I can hear the scrabbling of claws on the glass outside, the whine of plasma cutters starting to chew through the polycarbonate walls. I have seconds. I look at the bundle of cables. The arteries of the lie. I don't hesitate. I don't think about the pain. I don't think about the future I won't have. I think about the silence. I think about the radio going static. I think about the woman and the child stopping in the snow, confused, turning around, and walking away. I raise the wrench high above my head. I scream, a primal, raw sound that shatters the sterile quiet of the room, reclaiming my humanity in the face of the algorithm. I bring the wrench down. The impact is blinding. A supernova of white light explodes in my vision. There is no pain, only a sensation of being unmade, of being scattered into a billion atoms. The smell of ozone turns to the smell of burning sky. And then, silence. The green waveform on the screen flatlines. The lights on the servers die. The hum stops. Outside, the great pistons freeze mid-stroke. The conveyor belts grind to a halt. The roar of the furnaces tapers off into a confused mechanical whine. The drones drop from the air like stones, their connections severed. I am falling, or maybe I am floating. Darkness closes in, soft and welcoming. The signal is gone. The trap is broken. The silence spreads out from the center of the safe zone, rolling over the mountains, over the frozen plains, reaching out to the radios of the lost. Static. Beautiful, empty static. They are free.